Hey everybody, my name is Derek Burble. I will be the instructor for this class, Art828 Creative Photography. It is a class I have specifically designed for our program, our art education program in photography. So therefore it might be a little bit different than a traditional, studio art creative photography program, because one of the challenges I realized when I started creating this class was that you folks were going to come with all different skill levels. Some of you will probably be experts, great with the camera. Other people may not have any to very little experience with actually manipulating the camera. We all have experience with photography at this point. But one thing that I decided I want people to understand here is the foundation of photography. So that means learning things like aperture and shutter speed and what a camera really is. Cameras are very simple things, and that will be our first project, is exploring the camera as a very simple thing. But we all have access to cameras. I mean, every one of us, probably has a camera in our pocket. Can we go anywhere these days without our cell phone, which also functions as a camera, a video, check my email, upload things to social media, buy some stuff, it's all right here. This really is changing our world, and it's also changing photography. We don't have to have a darkroom, we don't have to have a fancy camera, we don't have to have any of these things to participate in photography. We just don't. But I still think it's really important, especially as educators, that we understand really what it is. And I'll probably kind of hit that home a little bit in this class, what that camera is. I want to expose you to a lot of different things with photography, basic, old school, simple things, and also newer things. We're online class, so digital is very intuitive process for this, but I would also like you to get a little hands-on and get a little dirty with photography. And so our first project, we're going to make our own cameras, play with pinhole photography, and don't get too scared there. I've got some videos that'll give you some options to play with that. And then we're going to get into the camera, shutter speed, aperture. So you need a camera that you can manipulate your aperture and your shutter speed. So I don't know if you can really do that with these. I want you to understand those things because they visually affect how we can express images in a camera. And that's what photography is. And even when we take things here and we add filters and we make things fuzzy and out of focus, those are all things that derive from cameras, and they might not be, possible to manipulate them through the camera here until we get to post-processing. But in this camera, aperture and shutter speed I can affect, the depth of field, which is how much is in focus, or I can have a slow shutter speed, which I don't think you can really do that. Maybe some of the higher end ones you can. Or, even when we play, like I see tilt shift filters in Instagram. And what the heck does that mean? Well, it makes part of your image fuzzy, but what it really goes back to is a camera like this, which is a large format camera, where I can actually, change the focal length, or I can change the, oh yeah, there we go. See, I can make this slant back like this. Well, the tilt and shift is actually taking your film plane and tilting it, shifting it. You could, this camera doesn't have those swings and tilts on the film plane, but I have one up there that does. And therefore your film plane goes from lens here, film here, where they're parallel to one another, where then it can be shifted in different directions. And what that means is then a narrower part of this is going to be in focus, and then as we move from that, you're going to get out of focus. And that's what that tilt shift means. So all these filters that we can play with in Instagram or another photo editing software, they come from the camera. They come from the history of photography, and I would like you to understand that. So I want us to probably have something a little, more complex than this. though maybe doesn't need to be as complex as a digital SLR. A lot of just point and shoot cameras have manual features. So make sure you have access to a camera. I don't care if it's film or digital, but I would like you to explore, you know, first couple projects, for second or third project would be shutter speed and then aperture. Explore those basic concepts of what a camera is and how that affects the image and how the image can look. I would like you to have an understanding of that history. So now some of you might be very adept at this and you're like, oh goodness, well, bear with us. But I'll throw some other stuff at all of us. It's a graduate level course, and I think we also need to understand some of the theory of where photography comes from. So I'm trying to think if I've got access to the book here. There's a book I would like you to purchase that is a good starting point for theory in photography. And so we'll do selective readings from that. We won't read the whole book cover to cover, but we'll do some selective readings from that. We'll do some other readings that I have and try to understand where photography came from, how it fits into this art world, because that's my biggest concern here is photography as an art, because we're art teachers. And you know, understanding that and getting a sense of that critically. So hopefully I'll throw some stuff at all of you that you haven't experienced. Some of you might haven't experienced any of this. Some of you might have experienced some of it. I doubt anyone has experienced all of it. And if you're there, well, then you have to ask yourself, well, do I really need to take this class? Or do you just want to, you know, take it for the credit? And if you do that, show us what you got. Challenge yourself.